Chev-Dev, along with
talk about it amongst America,
Pastor Archie.
but we also want to talk about it amongst ourselves because we are the model.
And we discuss topics and how they get to a certain tipping point.
So if we do well,
KCPZ, Praise 95.3.
then things tip toward the godly way. If we don't do well, things tip towards a satanic way.
And so our objective is to look at where we're at and really discuss some issues and how we can move things.
You're tuned into another episode of The Tipping Point. I'm Chev-Dev with Pastor Archie. How's it going this morning, Pastor?
Doing real well this morning.
All right, so what do we got going today?
Well, it's obvious that today is, we're still living in the shadow of a American decision that we've made over 40 times. And on this occasion, the result of that decision has brought on a lot of questions, a lot of issues, and so I think we've got to talk about where we are and what we should be thinking about as a country.
Gotcha.
After the election. So, post-election, I don't want to say blues, but reality.
Yeah, I think, it was a shocker, but overall, I think I'm cool with it, you know? I mean, not for any particular reason. I just think the shock is over with.
Well, I mean, I think I'm glad the campaign is over with because the drama of everyday news being filled with how much people are leaning toward one way or the other, the focus of America got lost in the process. I think also I have been, I told you, and I told many people that Trump was going to win.
I don't know. Did we have that conversation?
I think we did. We just couldn't talk about it on the air.
Okay.
But there's a number of reasons, and all of the reasons aren't because of racism and all that kind of stuff. Now, one of the reasons is because of the flow of the pendulum in America.
Okay.
Typically we have 4 to 8 party leadership that is Democratic or versus Republican, and then we swing back the other way after 8 years. And so to have without any drastic changes in the politics, then most of the time when you have a Republican president, you go so far right under Bush that the country is saying, whoa, we got to go back the other way. And so we elect an Obama. And then we go so far left that people say, whoa, we got to go back the other way. And you can trace that back, president after president after president, and most of the time you would find it very rarely that it only went 4 and it went more than 8.
I find it that's how nothing gets done. Things get done, spend time getting done, and then things get time spent undone.
Well, see, I think it is part of the brilliance of the Founding Fathers to be able to have the exchange of power and the handing down the baton in leadership. I think that countries are knee-jerk reaction. I mean, we rarely have, if you look around the world, where leaders will stand firm in the middle and just go straight to the middle. We have some issues, like for example, right now, with a lot of the issues of socialism and a lot of the issues of social issues over some of the practical issues. And what I mean by that is issues of human rights, issues of redefining our human perspective, our issues of human science being challenged in court, our issues of how much persuasion can a individual president have over the rights of the people, executive power. I mean, all of those things kind of come up whenever you have the left, the size of government, all those different things begin to take place. I think if you move Democratic too long, those things will swell up to the point where, we'll face some challenges. Then you'll have it swing back the other way where you try to reduce the size of government, you try to have trickle down economics, you try to have really go back to kind of the traditional standards of social life. So we're not defining abortion. We push out to the states. You're not defining these things. So you have each republic is becoming responsible, and the state becomes its own leadership, and government smaller. Then you need that as well. So if you had a dual leadership where you had to push back so people can move through the middle, that would be great. But I think you just don't have that in our structure of government. It's a democratic government. So,
I understand that. I understand that, and that's very, very meticulously detailed about how the system goes. I don't know if we as the people look at it that detailed. I think we just like who we like,
right? And
according to our beliefs,
right? And that's part of the problem. Like, for example, in this election, you had a person who is somewhat, well, not even somewhat, but just flat out an amateur in government. And you had a person who was probably the most qualified person on the earth, and
very extensive.
And so here's a person that lived their whole life at that level. I mean, if not their whole life, a majority of their life at that level, their adult life. And so they've seen all elements of the government, all of those issues, and the decisions that the arguments that were being made were really about nothing about the person's qualification. And so it's about who we like and who we don't like.
Well, according to our beliefs. I don't know, it's just real interesting. And I've been looking at Trump these last few days. He gave a couple of speeches or whatever. And we have a New Deal for my African Americans. Have you heard that New Deal?
Right. Well, I mean, here's the deal.
I was surprised. I was really, really surprised. And it was good. Yeah, I can't front. You know what I'm saying?
Here's the deal. I think hyperbole. I think
hyperbole.
I don't
know what that is.
That is over exaggeration. Like, for example, when he says everybody knows, that's a hyperbole. That is everybody don't know. Or if he says I'm the greatest, I'm the most. He says I'm the least bigoted person in the world. Now, making statements like that is just, and so therefore. That means that you made a statement without any supportive research, without any documentation, without any strategy for proof. Without any practical evidence and everything else. And in this election season, we made that okay. But I think why do we make it okay? Because
this is what I'm saying, and I can answer my own question. I think that who he was targeting doesn't care about any of that. They were riding with him because of his hate, his bigotry, and his rebelliousness, and that's it. And the slogan, I'm still amazed at how brilliant the campaign was. Let's make America great again.
Well,
I just think that was great.
Well, I think that there's a number of things. First of all, let's talk about behavioral science. I think the first thing is a marketing strategy is to attach a perception to yourself or somebody else. So, if I attack, and what'll happen is all the other things about you will go away.
Okay.
So let's suppose if I was marketing Coke and I made the taste so overwhelmingly great that I became powerful and effective. So here's a guy who's scared to talk to a woman, and then he's looking at her and she's cute and he's kind of bashful, and other guys are coming by and they're more confident than him. He takes a sip of Coke, and all of a sudden he has the courage. Now you run a few commercials like that, then what people will say is, man, I'm a little anxious, I need me a Coke. But all of the bad things about Coke will kind of go away. Adverse, if I come in and say, adversely, if I come in and say and attach a bad thing to you enough, then what will happen is you'll filter through. Like if a woman say all guys are cheaters, like if you have a mother who raises her kids and say all guys are cheaters, all guys are cheaters, all guys are cheaters, then when they get up, then they're gonna look for cheaters and they're gonna look to see evidence of cheating. Now here's the deal: what will happen is the person will be cheating, but they'll attach cheating to them.
This is my thing, and I understand that.
So he used that strategy. He said, "Lying Hillary." So therefore,
but why did everything that Hillary did and all her extensive career get overshadowed. I'm sure she done some bad things
because of that marketing. Matter of fact, half the emails that came out, there were 3 emails that were questionable, and the justice and the federal investigator decided that came to the conclusion that there was no ill intent. Okay, because of how they were marked. Okay, so this is about 3 to 5, I think, at the most, but I think it was 3. All the rest of it was you put a server in your basement. Now, if you really think about it, at the time when Colin Powell was Secretary of State, you couldn't put servers in your basement. He had AOL.
Yeah.
And so, so when you talk about the graduation of things that were taking place, now you might have had the first person who might not, and I'm just, this is hyperbole, this is just to make a point, exaggerating. At the first person who was who had this opportunity, he couldn't even have a private server. All the servers were public. Then the next person, you can have a private email, but you can't have a private server. And then the next person, you can have a commercial email, and then you add your public email. And then the next person, you can have an individual server. I mean, so the graduation of that is what gave her the opportunity to do the same thing everybody else was doing, but in a different way. And then I would say,
what about Mike Pence's emails?
Now, Mike Pence's email, I think that's kind of the double standard. It's kind of like, you complained about this, but I think that it was the marketing piece. But I think that if you attach the name Lion to Ted Cruz, then everything you say, you're going to fact check.
As a Republican, I liked Ted Cruz.
I mean, he was an interesting guy.
Yeah.
I think if you attach crooked to Hillary, then everything that comes out is going to have to go through the smell test of crookedness. If you would have attached Lion to Donald Trump, then they would have started fact checking everything that he said.
Who wins between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump?
Oh, I think Bernie Sanders' philosophy is scary and not healthy for America.
That's your personal opinion. Who wins between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump?
I still think Donald Trump would have won.
No.
I think because of the other elements. I think because number one, you had the dynamic of American swing. So that was working against them, and then because it's not just the variables that move.
The main reason Donald Trump won is because primary Democratic supporters stayed home because Hillary was the one they was rooting for. Had it been somebody else, they would have showed.
And said, I disagree with that being the main. The main reason why he won is because closet evangelicals did not. They say 80% of the folks who come out exit poll were evangelicals.
But Donald Trump won in such a small margin.
Right.
Everywhere.
Right. But
for the people from the Democrats that stayed home.
Look at the percentage of people who voted for Donald Trump and measure that by the percentage of people who are evangelicals and who are, they call them, again, we talked about the uneducated. I don't believe in that word, uneducated. But I think the rural areas that typically go Republican anyway. What happens is you got a lot of people who came out and went Republican that didn't go Republican, that normally don't go Republican, and you had a lot of people who became voters who were not traditionally voters. However, and here's what I mean by the pendulum. People were so frustrated because of the left social agenda that no matter who you pulled up in the Republican side, they're going to come out and vote. After Bush, people were so frustrated with the right agenda.
And I agree with
that.
So
you can't ignore it. That's a big variable.
But you have to look at the numbers in which Donald Trump won by. You got to remember the third party candidate got a lot of votes because Hillary was on the ticket for the Democrats. Had it been somebody else, third party votes wouldn't be that much. Majority of them go to Democrats. Trump wouldn't have won in 3, 4, 5 of the states he won in.
I think he would have still won in Michigan. I think he would have still won in Ohio.
Not a chance. Not a chance.
Because those states are, because you got to remember, like
Pennsylvania, he won.
Now Pennsylvania he might not have won, but I think you know, some of those big
Without
states,
Michigan and without Pennsylvania, he would have won.
I think he would have won Michigan anyway. I think he would have won
Michigan is a blue
Ohio anyway. This year, I think he would have won them just because of the overall dynamics.
Right.
We have had a democratic movement, and our social agenda has been much more on issues of socialization, like human rights and things of that nature, which the Republicans feel like the state should handle most of that.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have that swing of a movement,
Mm-hmm.
then you always have people who are vehemently,
vehemently.
well, put it this way,
Yeah.
harshly against it.
Vehemently.
And so those people will come out and they will vote against what's changing their lives. And I think with the political correctness, with the changes, and all those issues that we don't think heavily about, like, you know, the social issues of who gets to use the bathroom, the issues of the change gender. I mean, the movement from LGBT to gender decisions by social construct.
That's what was so great, because he started out hating that stuff, and now he's in and he's
he ran hating that stuff.
That's what I'm saying. But I agree with some of, you know. Hey, he said, "Hey man, if you born with a bleep, you a bleep. You're a man." You know what I'm saying?
Right.
If you born with a bleep, you're a woman.
Right.
Simple as that. So I agree
the
with
question
that.
is not. The question is whether or not those are social constructs. But the gender is a social construct. It's like we all get to decide what we are, or whether it's a scientific reality.
Yeah.
And so most Republicans believe it's a scientific reality, and a lot of Democrats have gone along with
you can be what you want to be.
right, with social construct.
Yeah.
So that means that you get to decide. But everything was going social construct.
Got you. That's why you say the pendulum.
That's why I said the pendulum swing, and that's why it's not bad for the pendulum to swing.
I don't think so. I just think that there's got to be a way, and there's no way for this to happen, else it wouldn't. It's got to be a way to keep what's good and to throw out what's bad. But it seems like, and now he said he wasn't going to repeal Obamacare.
Well, I don't know. In the first place. I think that what they'll do is
read.
He'll do what Hillary was going to do, which is make adjustments on the bad part. And then this is the same thing we did with No Child Left Behind. I mean, our race to the top and all that stuff was just an adjustment to what Bush had done. So it wasn't a new thing.
Yeah.
But that's kind of what you do when parties come back. But so with Obamacare, he might try to call it Trump care. I mean, I don't know what he'll do. But he'll make adjustments to make it better. And that's really what you normally have.
I tell you what, he don't want those lawsuits. He don't want those problems, because he showed settle with him
Yeah.
and he going to pay that $25 million
Right.
for that fraud case.
That's one. That's one.
Oh, that's just one?
Yeah, that's a lot. I mean, that's Trump University. What they did was lump it all in the same. And then all of the states and all the other folks.
Of fraud.
Well, what they did lumped all that together and then settled for $25 million, so that they settled. I think $4 million went to one group of complaints, and then the other went to the other one. But he has a lot of lawsuits.
Yeah. Kansas City. This is the Tipping Point. Chev-Dev Pastor Archie, and we this political situation is very much a hot topic. The election is over, so we can talk about this thing freely. A lot freer than we could while the election is going on. So that's why you hear us talking about it now, and it's definitely great topic. So, Pastor, what happens now?
Well, I think now we have a couple of things that are taking place. We got to see what the new norm is going to look like. So the rash of a new norm. So we've had since the election over 700 hate crimes that have taken place across the country.
Now, are these hate crimes that have taken place just because the elections happened and the cameras on them, or is this stuff that's been going on, we're just recognizing that they're going on?
No, I think this stuff is happening since the elections happened.
Because there's always stuff happening.
Right. I think that there's, and so what we're really measuring now are the insurgents, the increase. And I think really when you talk about, I think it was less. I mean, right when Obama was elected, we had some hate crimes, predominantly against blacks and minorities, because people were angry because we had just crossed the historical, broke a historical ceiling and had a minority in the White House. But I think, and we had protests, like people talk about these protests, we had protests, people were burning, pictures of Obama, of black people, and they had pictures of things hanging on a tree. All that kind of stuff took place.
Well, what about your homegirl, the homegirl and the mayor in West Virginia?
She just, because here's the deal, somebody will always push the boundaries. So what happened is the election of Donald Trump seemed to have sparked
a nonchalant,
courageous, well, kind of a courageous expression of, yeah, I can say anything that I want to say, because he said anything he wanted to say.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of what she's been this kind of saying in the closet, saying to her friends, saying to everybody else, and she just felt the freedom to say it.
Say it on Facebook.
Right.
And then the mayor agreed.
Right.
And then the 27-year-old police chief down in Tennessee.
Yeah.
Like,
same thing, yeah.
I don't understand. Like, people, you see this is happening. Why would you see they losing their jobs and their careers?
But you also got to recognize that here's the deal: if you're a white racist and you're frustrated because blacks are free, then the thing you want to be in your career is a police officer.
Yeah, I suppose.
and so now what police officers do all they can to kind of control that. What ends up happening is you're hiring people who come in, they're qualified, they just have an ideology, and none of that's going to show up in anything that you're testing.
And that's a bad place to be for the kind of people.
Exactly. But it's the most attractive place to be. Now, the worst person who's going to be there is a black man who comes in and says, I got to get in the environment and have a bunch of people like that watching my back.
Yeah.
And then I got to deal with the politics. And I think that in some places, as a university professor, if they mistreat me and treat me a different way, I won't die. I mean, I might have to grade papers differently, do some extra work, all that kind of stuff.
But as a
cop, if you mistreat me, then I don't get to go home.
Yeah.
So, but I think getting back to some of the election stuff, I think I do think that the pendulum needs to swing. I think Bernie Sanders was pushing something that, in my personal opinion, would have increased the perception that social constructs overrule scientific reality.
I hear that. I just think he'd have been better. He's more safer. He seemed like he had more of a clear direction, even though some may not agree with what he was pushing. Trump didn't have no direction. He didn't have no. Like you said, he was not educated in politics at all. So all he could say, ISIS is the worst threat this country has ever seen. It's like, come on, man, that's what you can talk about?
Right, yeah. And I think, and so let's talk a little bit about some of the fears that people have now. Things that rub up against where we are. Now, first thing, the rise of the re-stimulation of the Klan. The Klan's movement, and in North Carolina on December the 3rd or the 2nd or the 3rd, whatever that would be.
They rally.
They're going to have a rally.
Oh, they haven't had it yet.
It's in December, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so, and the part of the goal is to spark these rallies all across the country.
Yeah.
And there's a few things I think we need to think of. First thing is, we need to think about their ideology. I'm going to come back to that for a moment. But the first thing I think, recognizing is who they are. I mean, they're not a group of people that come into your city and have rallies.
They take over and lock everybody up.
They're not those people. But who they are the people who you see at the bank, the police officers that drive through, the judges that are on the bench, the attorneys and prosecutors that are there, and people who have to abide by the law and don't like the law. They just put on sheets and come out there. That's always been the reality.
But they're mostly, they're mostly going to be in your rural areas.
Well, I would say that they're most openly in your rural areas. The celebrations are in your rural areas, but there's not enough people in the rural areas to represent the mass group of people who come together under this umbrella.
So, but this is the thing that, I hear that, and I know a lot of people has a lot of fear, and I think with Trump being elected, is that sort of emboldened them, is giving them courage to say, hey, like the dude, the head of the Klan was like, this is one of the best days of my life, because you know what I'm saying, like. But these are the same people that's been here. They've been here. You know what I'm saying?
I understand, but here's the thing. part of their connectedness is governed by under the current news connections.
Okay.
And they're fed by that. The alt-right, you'll hear things about that or whatever. And Stephen Bannon was the leader, the CEO, who ran that connection, feeding people all the things that they needed to know and developing a direction and a plan. He calls himself a nationalist. He said he's not a white nationalist, but he talks about people who he think are true demonstrations of power. And one of them is Satan. And he said the devil is a great demonstration of what a leader looks like. And I mean, that kind of stuff. And this is recent. This is since he's been.
So what do we do?
So
about
now,
that kind of,
now he's assigned as the chief advisor to the president-elect. So now here's kind of where some of the problems come in. Is that so he's feeding these people and everything else. You have another guy who might be the highest prosecutor in the country, who is also been very clear about that. Now, so the question is, what's the ideology behind the Klan? And there are three things that we know are common rhetoric. First of all, they really don't value and see white people as immigrants who came into this country, even though
I got you.
It's the same. They feel like blacks were brought into this country to do a thing, be slaves, and when we freed them, we should have exported them all out. So therefore, they are also illegal immigrants. So they can see us as illegal immigrants. They believe Hitler he had it right to hold on to purity of his nation, and when the threat of intermingling came about, then the separative movement was a wise thing to take place. And since it couldn't take place because of the intermingling, then you had concentration camps, because you didn't want to contaminate the purity. And they believe pure white is contaminated by intermingling. Now, part of the intermingling that they dislike is, and the reason why you see these swastikas on churches and stuff like that, is because whenever you start to have integrated schools and integrated churches, you have multicultural church, that theme rubs heavily against them. And with many of the black churches now who have found a spot somewhere on the outskirts of black communities, like if you look in the depth of the black communities, I feel like we have Macedonia that moved into the thicket of it, which I really applaud them greatly. But a lot of our churches who start off urban will move. They will do like what Brown Flight did and move out somewhere in the suburbs or move closer to the suburbs and things of that nature. So what you have is also black people who move away from their own communities. Well, what they see that as is you are placing people in a position where you have these people in these multicultural churches who will have kids who don't understand the dynamic of the purity of their race, and they will unequally yoke with somebody else, and now you have these half-breed kids, and I mean it just goes on and on and on and on and on and on. So that's the ideology, and that ideology is supported by the person who is the whisper away from the president's office. And so the concern is and people say, well, Donald Trump's not a racist, but I mean, I'm not there's a lot of things I'm not, but if you put something in my ear long enough, then it's going to become persuasive. I mean, it's just
so.
science.
Let me ask you this: we understand who he's electing are these kind of these kind of ambassadors for evil, and to resurrect the Klan and all that, and I think we could feed into that and be fearful, if you will. Here's the thing. I me personally, if there's a person who claims they love me and then stab me in the back, but there's another person who don't love, and he shows it to me, I respect that person a lot more. So I think we're faced with the same thing that Bush did. It just wasn't out in the open. Trump is just gonna do it out in the open.
And see,
you know what I'm saying?
I mean, I would say, I don't know if it's even a close comparison between Bush and Trump, but
so you're saying the ideologies are not the same?
No, They're not the same. Not by far. I think that their political perceptions might be the same. Like, for example, smaller government, responsible spending.
So you're saying that Bush didn't have any agenda to keep whiteness pure, the rich rich, the poor poor. I mean, he flew over the problem in Katrina, saying, "Oh, I feel for those people." When you had Obama, who landed in Sandy Hook, was it Sandy Hook, whatever that was, the hurricane over there, and kind of consoled the people, saying, "Hey, I'm with you," but. You know, I think it's that same ideology. I mean, the whole FEMA camp with Brownie and I mean, I think that was a racist pedestal or bigot pedestal.
What you had was, to me, I don't think there's any evidence that race was the primary motivation, but I think that the ignorance, the inability to understand all of who he was leading is the result of that. And the people he didn't understand are minorities and blacks more than anything. The people he didn't understand were poor people who were not wealthy, and the perception, he did what most white people do. And most white people, I would not label them as bigot or racist, but I would label them as, you're so disassociated with me that you have no idea where I am, and you're so used to functioning. Let me give you this example. Most of the white people are frustrated because of political correctness. And they say, we can't even say what we want to say anymore. What they are experiencing is what every other culture always experienced. Like, for example, black folks have never been able to say what you think in the face of white people. In fact, we're taught when we're kids, if these white folks are around, don't act like that. And so you had a different way of acting. So we've always had to put a muzzle on in front of them. This is the first time they've ever had to do it, to be a part of a broader perspective. And so, and they get offended by that.
And so, okay, so, but now Trump's bringing that back. By the way, in the words of Kanye West, hey man, George Bush don't like black people.
You know, George Bush don't know black people.
Okay, all right. So, and that's what I wanted to hear. Now, as far as Donald Trump, Donald Trump just not like black people?
I think for the most part, black people have their place.
And that's Trump's position versus a Bush position.
Yeah. I think black people have their place. He lives in New York. He talks about all the stuff for the blacks.
Yeah.
My African Americans.
Look at my African American over there. Look at him.
Right. I think that he would cut a decent deal with anybody. And I think
he's a businessman, right?
And I think that he would scam anybody too. You scam you whether you black or white or whatever the case may be. The easiest person to scam is the person who'll go after. I mean, if you go in if 6 people run in my backyard, my dog's gonna bite somebody.
Yeah.
So he's gonna go after the prime target. I mean, you running the slowest, and you look like so he's gonna go after you. So black folks are an easy target off. I'll give you an example, like a minority business. I know if I'm a Trump, I know that minority business is not going to be able to litigate in court like I can. I got a whole pile of lawyers that are full time on my staff. So what ends up happening is I will make a deal with you, and you will take the deal because you're hungry and you got to feed your family, and then I'll pay you half of what I said I was going to pay you, and then I tell you take me to court. Well, I can do that with you. But if I go against somebody who's as wealthy as me and try to do the same thing, then they might be in court and they might win. And so, just like in this case that took place with Trump University, I mean, really, those individuals, what were they going to sue Donald Trump?
Yeah.
You know, I mean, what do you get away with?
So back to this appointing these people with these ideologies.
Right.
We understand the ideology. I think that was a clear understanding of the ideology of the Klan. Let me just ask this, because you'll probably know. So the Klan 60 years ago is a lot different than the Klan today, for one. So because I know there was a lot more actions taken according to the ideology 60 years ago,
right,
which can't be taken today. And you said there's been like a muzzle on them.
Right. Well, I said there's been a muzzle on. There's been the same muzzle that's always on minorities. White people had to suffer it. They had to be cautious of what you say. They had to be correct in the terms that you use.
And they used to, or they do now.
They did during and that increased during the Obama campaign, during the Obama run.
Oh, they had to be a lot more quiet during the Obama.
They had to be, and I'm not talking about just white racists. I'm talking about white people.
Okay.
White people who never had to watch what they say, and their rules for watching what they say were based on the ones that they made up for themselves, and then all of us had to move into that world. And we had to watch what we say in their world. You know, like like all of us had a white people voice. You know, whenever you're making a phone call, the voice switches, and then you sound like a white person. You're talking like them because you know that is necessary in order for you to get from point A to point B. And then at the same time, when you have, you know, we grew up and you know, we would say, be careful in mixed company. Because there were certain things that you couldn't say around white people that you could say around a community of just blacks.
Gotcha.
Now, whites have never had to deal with that. They could say whatever they wanted to say. And so, especially in the South, when I was growing up down in, they call you the N word in a minute, but you couldn't call them a hunky, you know, the H word, whatever you want to call it. But and so,
too late, you said honky pass.
yeah, it's already out there, yeah. So they had, for the first time, felt like a minority. Now, to some, that was okay. To others, that was just, we're being taken over. I mean, and so those who some people just felt uncomfortable. And that's all the rural people in all those different areas. Some people felt outrageous and anger and felt like you're taking something, you're making me like you were. I don't want to be a minority.
So where does that put us now?
Well, I think right now,
what can they do right now to
I
make America great again?
I think some of the things, here's our fear. Our fear is we fall for things that we never wanted you guys to see.
Like
the blatant racism that took place on a regular basis, like what we see happening with the cops now that's been much more visible. That stuff we grew up with. We saw that all the time. And we thought we were at a place where our kids wouldn't see it. And now we're starting to realize, I think for my generation, the pain is, we're starting to realize, because we know what that feels like and y'all don't.
Yeah.
And so the pain is, my kids, now our kids may have to see that stuff and look at that stuff again.
How? I mean, we're seeing it. I think the plans is hiding behind the
so we have
suits.
We have over 700 acts of hate crime toward minorities in the last 2 weeks. How many crimes have been solved?
Okay.
And so we have a rally of hate organizations.
But that's what I'm saying. This stuff has been going on.
Well, no, it's been going on in the barns. It hasn't been. You haven't had what the plan is to have a national sweep of the rise of the Klan all over the country. I think since you've never been there.
Okay, you're right. You're right. I'm just saying,
thing.
and to me, it's like your last effort at winning a game that you've already lost.
And I think that's. I understand how that's your perception.
Okay, yeah. So,
but I think how big it can be is probably unimaginable.
But and the reason I say that is because
I'll give you an example. Mm-hmm. Let's suppose a national endorsement of stop and frisk takes place. Okay. You now have just stimulated the authority to do all the stuff that
they've already been doing.
No. We don't have had a national stop. We had New York stop and frisk at that particular case, and you had the federal government that. Like at this particular point, if you had the federal government come in and investigate, like stop and frisk was investigated by the federal government, and so it became evident that they were 97% of the people who were, 87% of the people who were being stopped were African American. 12% of the overall people who were being stopped were convicted of a crime based on stop and frisk. And there's a number of folks who were convicted and put in jail until their court date, lost their jobs, abandoned their family lost home, all that kind of stuff. And then you find out, okay, the case is thrown out, and then you throw them out on the street. Now, that happened in New York. If that started happening nationally, then what you see now is these cases where we are starting to edge toward one direction and we're starting to get some attention on this thing and all that kind of stuff. It'll wash all that away. I mean, we'll be at a point where all these folks who, like, you know, I had a situation where a person came home, 2 adopted black kids in the white community, white person, get home and they have, you know, blacks' lives no longer matter. Trump spray paint on their garage, and you know what they did? She got them 2 black. She called the social service people. Got them 2 black kids at her house right away.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, David Banner. Trump being elected is the best thing that could ever happen to black folks. Banner. No,
David Banner.
David
Okay.
Banner, rapper David Banner.
Mm-hmm.
Trump being elected is the best thing that could happen to black folks.
What's his economic status?
What do you mean?
I mean, is he rich?
Yeah, he's well off, but this is what I'm saying. He's a pro-black. He's a pro-black activist, rapper slash. He's a raptivist.
Okay. And I would say if he lives in the gates of safety, then I think how I live and how he lives is so different.
No. Let me in the context.
Okay.
He says Trump being elected is the best thing that ever happened to black folks' ideology and unity, because now we will be forced, if we're smart, we will be forced to unite against our oppressor instead of against ourselves.
Right, I think that, but here's the okay, I hear you, and I think that there's a couple of things that part of our unity is in brown flight. We became a part of communities that don't look like us.
Okay.
And I'm not saying that's bad or good, I'm saying that disunity is that reality. So therefore, the passion I had to fix a school that was miseducating the black community, it went away when I was able to stick my kid in here with the white people. So the smartest, most wealthiest folks, by far, percentage-wise, decided that I'm gonna give up my onerous in that community and become accepted in the other community. So that's one thing.
So at the point, I hate to cut you, I just got to ask, but at the point that brown flight accepts the fact that they are no longer a part of a community that they've tried to be a part of, according to Trump being elected and his ideology being rolled downhill, that's what David Banner means. We're going to be forced to unite because,
So what you're saying is, and my point in saying that when those things took place and they visited another community, it's kind of like, you remember when, I don't know, you probably too young to remember the days when OJ was black?
Yeah, I don't remember those days.
Okay, then when
I heard about him. I heard he was a great black dude.
He was a great black dude, yeah. But when he went white and he got in trouble and tried to run back to the black community, how'd they feel about it?
Well, this is the thing. I think that's a different situation because you're talking about somebody who's famous and all the white people don't love me, just accept me back in society. When David Banner's talking about more of brown flight, oh, they killing us, it's time to unite for survival. That's something totally different.
Well, I think that, so what you're saying is like all of the white people, all the black people who now went out and joined white churches, and, you know, all of them that moved out into these white neighborhoods will begin to get their houses spray painted and
then begin to recognize, you know what? It may be time for me to, go back. Not saying, oh, let me go here and protect, but it's just, I think
I'm safer here than I am there. And I think based on Maslow's laws, you're right, because, this self-actualization, it starts going down the scale when those other elements start. So my safety becomes an issue now. My kid might get killed out here in the suburbs faster than he might get killed in the hood. This begin to change. So now I would say the question is going to be is would the black community begin to embrace and endorse people who have, can unity take place when there's been a sense, whether it's true or not, a sense of betrayal? And that's why I was using
yes,
the OJ.
well, this is the thing. This is the thing. Yes, it can. You know how I know? Because most of the times, within the last couple of weeks, since the big day,
Mm-hmm.
you know, the people who have been marching in the streets against Trump has been majority white people, minority black people that we have united. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Now, but the average pro-black person feels that anybody that's white is a threat. But here we have a group of white people that are standing with us, that are tackling cops to get off of us.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That deserve a hood pass. You feel me?
Right. And I get that because you know we've always had white folks. In fact, I think we don't say this a lot, but you know, part of the success of Martin Luther King's march was
To unite.
Was the white people who believed in our ideology. I do think this. It would be nice if the black people who left us convinced the white people that we were important enough to fight for. And that might be part of kind of what you see happening. I also think that you can't win or unite a community successfully based on race. And
I hear you.
Right, yeah.
It's
and
all
now we go back
ideology.
to the kingdom.
Now,
I think we gotta have a greater kingdom ideology than I do have.
And I know we're gonna get to.
racial
I know we're gonna have to get to the kingdom part because we wouldn't be who we are if we didn't.
Right.
But stop and frisk nationally gets passed. Police shootings increase. Video, cell phones, protests increase.
Now,
How long before they get what they think they want, which is war?
Right, but here's the thing. The videos will probably decrease because there's a national movement and some states have already pushed to make it illegal.
For body cams, not personal cell phone footage.
To make it illegal to record the police during arrest.
Okay, we already breaking crimes. We already breaking laws. Okay, it's illegal.
No, I'm talking. No, it's not illegal in some places. But that's becoming that way. So that means that if you get caught doing that, then I get to arrest you and take that tape as part of evidence.
Okay, well, you're going to have to call. That means the police are going to be calling Facebook every day saying, take this video down after it's already been
what they're
everywhere.
going to do is they're going to hire somebody who has the ability to cut those things off. And then what they'll do is stuff like, we're getting ready to go down to Devin's crib, so shut off all the cell phones connected with Devin Price. And then we kick your door in. And you're trying to do this stuff, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, once you get a federal, they got power for IRS. I mean, they come in your house and take your stuff. Well, I mean, once you get a federal, like if you had a state level, then the federal government oversees them whenever there's a discriminatory issue that took place. But if you think about what happened in Ferguson, all the things that we found out, all the things that were wrong, how corrupt that police department was, the only reason why we found that it was corrupt is because the federal government did an investigation. You know, so if the federal government had the same policies they had, then who's going to investigate? So that's kind of the challenge that you have to face. The second thing is I think the conscience of the kingdom is stronger than the exposure of Facebook. And so therefore, if you stood, that's why I said if blacks who left here could say, do like Nehemiah did. Nehemiah was living up in the castle. And when he went back and said, how are things going in the hood? And he got the message that things were messed up. He went back to his boss. He mourned. And he went back to his boss and said, there's some problems at home. And things are bad. His boss not only gave him a leave of absence, but gave him materials to go down there to fix the stuff. And gave him a pass and said, leave him alone while you're coming through there for all the other nations. So all that stuff begins to take place because the conscience of the kingdom. And I think that's kind of where we have to go. The problem is many of our African Americans who left us, many ministers who left us, and many people who left us forgot about us. I mean, I feel like Joseph in jail. You know, it's like, you said you was coming. You said you was going to go out there. You was going to come back. It's been 2 years.
Now I understand about having a kingdom mind state in adversity. I understand that.
I'm not talking about in adversity. I'm talking about as normality.
As normality, but right now we're in a state of I would even say it's spiritual warfare, but I see a paradigm shift coming. And I've been talking about this since the beginning of the year. You know what I'm saying? Me and my brother was having a conversation. I said, man, there's going to be a paradigm shift that happens within our lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean here on earth. And I'm not talking about the rapture.
Right.
I'm talking about something's going to happen to where our way of life now is going to be foreign to us sooner than it is later.
Well, I mean, I think we've seen it happen 4 times in my lifetime.
I can't say no. I can't say no, but I'm talking about, I'm a movie dude. I'm talking about post-apocalyptic, Back to the Future 2 type
right.
stuff. You know what I'm saying?
Really, and to tell you the truth, as odd as it may sound, we got to remember the reality we came from.
Mm-hmm.
All of us went to school together. All of us, our world was the neighborhood that we were in. And if there was ever battles, it was the Garfield Gangsters against the Michigan Machines, but it wasn't this national stuff and all this kind of stuff. We all walked to school together. Our unity was we had people who were different in different ways, but if you were part of our community, then you were part of our community. We understood community. Everybody was raised by the community. All those different things that took place. That's a totally different world now. The bankers knew who we were. The gas station people knew who we were. Everybody knew who we were. There was no cards where you could swipe. We didn't have phones. So when you were away, it was the community that kept you connected with the community. So it wasn't like I needed a cell phone everywhere I go because Miss Berry lived down the street. You know, whatever the case matters. So that world, there is an apocalyptic change. But we've also had a point where, at one point, the presidency was based on policy. And we still have a remnant of that in our mind. I'm thinking, we argue specific policies and things of that nature. And what's interesting is people like, well, I don't like him. I don't like her. I'm like, what they got to do with it? I think, I disagree with Oprah a lot. I think she was right in saying, they ain't got to come to your house.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
So what I'm saying is, with everything you just said, because, you know, I understand what Giuliani's talking about, the stop and frisk, and I think that is an agenda to keep the status quo, because I believe...
But to get it back.
No, that's what I'm saying. This is what you got to understand, Pastor. I know there's policies and procedures and laws that even the law enforcement have to follow. Right. They already haven't been following them.
And my point is the worst you see is great compared to where I come from. So when I say get it back,
you mean back from the day that you was here?
Back from when
you was out.
Those days.
Those are the days. So you think he's trying to take it back there?
I think that's what he believes is right.
So with that happening, and then you talk about, I haven't heard anything about it, but you talk about making it illegal for the cell phones and blah blah blah.
Right.
Blah,
yeah.
blah.
There's been a push. There's been laws that's been pushed to try to make it illegal to record, and especially
record cops arresting somebody, or record cops period.
Record cops arresting somebody, if I remember the law right now. But it's different in different states. I think Missouri has some discussion that's taking place. We have a full Republican Senate now, and majority now. Yeah. So I think if that stuff comes up now, there's no resistance unless it is that kind of illegal. So
and you don't think that there's going to be a boiling point. We had a tipping point, but you don't think there's going to be a boiling point to where it boils over and it's going to be something that changes our way of life right now?
From where I've been, I think that it's hard for me to see the strategies that were used to change things and the generation that you come from. You guys don't see the value in diplomacy. And so therefore, the majority of the guys who I run into, now I can't speak for everybody in any way, so please don't think I'm doing that. But from my experience, as I start visioning what could take place, the marches that we see and things of that nature. Even when I'm mowing down the march with the folks in Jefferson City, I had to tell the young folks, look, don't cuss in them people's face. But you know what I'm saying? I mean, just our silent march. In fact, we took a casket and we just marched quietly with the casket all the way up through the walk to the Capitol and then through the Capitol building.
How effective is that?
It was very effective.
Well, it's not as effective as it is it was
very effective in reaching the conscience of people and in stimulating some discussions that we think really matter. The problem came when folks started cussing and hollering and fighting and disrupting and said you're not going to have your regular stuff until so some of that protesting stuff now I think there is a time for that and a place for that. When I got your ear, then I want to be able to tell you things that I think will work in a negotiation. If I don't have your ear, then I may cause my civil disobedience get to the point where you're gonna start listening.
And that's us, as you say, diplomacy.
Mm-hmm.
But the majority of people don't care about diplomacy. They just want action, and that's the problem. And then most of the people I'm talking about is our people, black people,
right?
Who's ready to just shoot back,
right? And I think that's how you lose.
I mean, I agree with you. I agree. That's how we will lose a lot. We would lose a lot, but people don't think that way.
You begin to prove
that's already around here. They just passing laws. Hey, now you don't even need a permit to carry.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's about to be the Wild Wild West up in this piece.
Right. And I think that here we are, the poorest part of the state. We're in one of the poorest parts of the state, and we're cheering our guns, not recognizing that there's nothing you can buy compared to what others can buy.
Well, I don't know. I think there's going to be a paradigm shift for the worse. And I think I know us as Christians. I mean, we can't take a carnal approach to it. We have to always take a spiritual approach. It's hard for me, you know what I'm saying, because I get angry at what I see.
Mm-hmm.
1 minute left. Philando Castile's dude, manslaughter. What do you think about that?
Yeah, man, I think it was a necessity that justice prevailed.
Why not murder?
Case. I think murder has to be much more premeditated. I think if he took him on a
premeditated murder, dude, but out of.
I think that if he went to a murder charge, then the guy probably with a good lawyer could get off. If you have a manslaughter charge, then negligence is the primary focus, and so therefore legally.
You shot him 7 times. No accident.
I think that again, premeditated is like if I took my gun and came to your house, then you could probably argue premeditated. But if I had my gun and I was at your house, then it would be hard to establish murder unless you could clearly put the motive in place. And I think it would be. I wouldn't from a legal perspective. I wouldn't have went for first degree murder or even second degree murder. I probably would have went for.
And then second degree manslaughter. That means 18 months.
Yeah, no, I probably would have went for first degree manslaughter. It's a big argument because you got to deal with the person's rights and stuff. So
you've been listening to The Tipping Point. Till next time, we'll holler.
Yeah, I think we're still live here. I do think that with the tipping